A girl with long brown hair sits at her sunlit desk, diligently writing on a worksheet. A different girl with short black hair tied in pigtails lies in a final, peaceful rest, surrounded by white lilies. The scene shifts to a fantasy world, introducing the story of Cecilia, a village girl who meets a young nobleman named Charles. This tale of revolution, filled with diverse companions, was supposed to reach its conclusion, but the first girl wakes up with blue hair, sees her reflection, and finds a strange mark on her hand, crying out in shock, "I've become Cecilia!" Her story began in the summer of her second year of middle school. She recalls living an ordinary life, waving to friends in the hallway, feeling neither joy nor sadness. Her mother's voice echoes in her memory, demanding she study for her future and keep her hobbies in check. She was told that friends would only cause trouble, and not to get too close to anyone. She looks over her shoulder, the lonely advice weighing on her. But then she saw a Hera girl, whose eyes seemed dazzlingly bright, sitting in the classroom. The brown-haired girl approaches her classmate writing at a desk, calling her Amy. The black-haired girl, Ame, lights up and calls back, "Haru," revealing she's a budding novelist. Haru asks if Ame's drawing is the protagonist, pointing to a sketch of a girl with long blue hair. Amy's face erupts in pure, unfiltered joy at the question. Overjoyed and flustered, Ame can hardly contain her excitement as Haru looks at her art. Haru reflects that Ame was unlike anyone she had ever met. Ame's passion for her stories was infectious, and she quickly became a special and cherished friend to Haru. Walking home one afternoon, Haru asks if Ame has any other friends. Ame confesses she has no one else, explaining that writing has been her anchor and her novels mean everything to her. Ame tells Haru that she was the very first person who ever wanted to read her work. Her praise meant the world to Ame, bringing her immense happiness. Looking down with a heartfelt smile, Ame tells Haru, "You're my only friend." Haru is taken aback, touched by the depth of Ame's confession. A shadow of doubt crosses her mind as she silently wonders, what about me? 1 month later, the story takes a dark turn as Ame lies dead in a school uniform. In a stairwell, a girl with green-tinted hair nervously asks another girl named Akari if what happened is okay. Akari smirks, callously blaming Ame for running into the road and insisting they didn't push her. Her expression twists into a snarl as she internally rages that it was Ame's fault for leaving her creepy notebook out. Akari feigns shock, claiming her hand moved on its own, a flimsy excuse for her actions. The truth was that Akari and her friends had been bullying Ame for over half a year. Haru recalls her mother's rage, blaming her for causing trouble at school, while she stood paralyzed by regret. With tears streaming down her face, Haru finally admits the truth. She wanted to fight for Ame, but fear of retaliation and disappointing her parents made her a bystander to her friend's suffering. That single, cowardly decision tormented Haru until the day Ame died. Working late into the night, she tries to finish Ame's novel, but knows it's just a hollow act of self-satisfaction. In a moment of pure desperation, Haru embraces a vision of Ame and begs any god listening for a chance to save her. And just like that, she wakes up in a strange bed with long blue hair, completely bewildered. She sits up in a rustic, candlelit room, wondering where on earth she is. Her reflection reveals the impossible. She's become Cecilia, the hero from Ame's story. She recognizes the light blue hair and the distinct mark on her hand from Ame's original drawing. Her eyes widen in shock as the reality of her situation begins to sink in. She recalls the exact description of Ame's protagonist, the blue hair, and the magical mark. It's undeniable. She has been reborn as the main character, Cecilia Ria. Panic sets in as she questions what happened to her old life and how she ended up inside her friend's novel. She clutches her head, remembering only that she fell asleep while writing. Realizing she's in Ame's novel, she knows she must follow the story or risk destroying this world. With a newfound resolve, she vows to protect the world that Ame treasured above all else. She feels a surge of confidence. After 5 years of reading it, she knows the story by heart. Standing up, she declares her first move, to figure out exactly where she is in the story. Taking stock of her simple room, she deduces that she's at the very beginning of the story, when Cecilia is still just a villager. She remembers the story's opening. The bell tower chimes 13 times to signal the arrival of the nobleman Charles. Looking at the mark on her hand, she realizes the stakes. If she doesn't meet Charles, the whole country is doomed. With renewed determination, she throws open the door, resolving to meet him and figure out the rest as she goes. But instead of a noble welcome, she finds her village engulfed in flames and chaos. From her doorway, she watches the terrifying scene unfold, completely stunned. Her mind goes blank with shock as she tries to process the brutal reality before her. Men in black cloaks seize her and other villagers, dragging them into the chaos as she wonders what on earth is happening. Her eyes lock onto a dark-haired man leading the charge, and her heart sinks. That's not Charles. She recognizes him instantly. The infamous Leon Morganite, the very same man who was supposed to be Cecilia's final companion and the strongest swordsman in the land. Panic sets in as she realizes the story has gone completely off the rails. He wasn't supposed to show up until much later. A man in a red uniform steps forward to address the terrified villagers, with Leon standing grimly behind him. He introduces himself as an inspector of justice, here on direct orders from the king. Then he delivers a horrifying verdict that sentences them all to execution, and Cecilia's world shatters. A brave village boy steps up, demanding to know if they even investigated, shouting that there's no witch here. He protests the injustice, declaring that the village is under the protection of the noble lapis lazuli family. The inspector responds with a swift, brutal slash of his sword, cutting the boy down without a second thought. Blood splatters across the horrified faces of Cecilia and the other villagers, freezing them in terror. The blood-soaked inspector sneers, revealing that their protectors, the lapis lazuli family, have been imprisoned for treason. He points to a crying mother and her small child, ordering his men to make an example of them first. His reason is pure evil. Because her husband dared to argue, he'll start by killing his family. Cecilia collapses in despair, realizing with horror that someone is about to die right in front of her. This was never supposed to happen. Her own fear of death floods her mind. Overwhelmed by tears, she desperately prays for someone to intervene. The men close in on the helpless mother and daughter, their fate sealed. The mother's heartbreaking scream for help echoes through the village. In her tear-filled eyes, Cecilia's own desperate plea for help mirrors another's. A memory flashes. Am smiling at her desk, finding something strange. Then, the horrific image of Ame's final moments, crushed and bleeding. Her friend's weak, desperate call for someone, anyone, to help her. Ame's last words, "Please help me," echo in her soul, a plea she failed to answer. The memory ignites something inside her, a fire born from regret. The stoic knight, Leon, watches as the villager pleads for her life. The inspector smirks, reminding everyone that a direct order from the king means even the great Leon Morganite is under his command. He sadistically admits there's no reason for this massacre, but watching peasants cower in fear is just too satisfying to pass up. Finding her voice, Cecilia screams for him to wait. All eyes turn to her as she stands, and tearfully requests an opportunity to negotiate with Lord Leon himself. The inspector looks absolutely floored by her audacity. A flashback reminds her of the promise she made to herself. She is done turning a blind eye to injustice. Stealing her resolve, Cecilia vows that she will not die here, not like this. A brave woman speaks up, telling Lord Leon she believes he doesn't truly want to do this. Leon's cold expression remains unchanged, giving nothing away. But Cecilia notices his subordinates look uneasy, confirming they're also reluctant to carry out this order. She appeals directly to Leon, reminding him of a time she saw him in the capital, approving permits to help farmers. With all her courage, she makes an impossible request: fight against the king with me. She knows Leon is a key ally in the novel, and even though he's currently following orders, she gambles that if she can just convince him, he'll stop this despicable man. The inspector grabs her by the collar, furious that a lowly villager would dare question the king's absolute orders. But Cecilia fights back, yelling that executing people without any evidence is absurd. A voice echoes in the darkness, questioning if targeting the protesters' family was truly the king's order. Enraged, Cecilia calls both the inspector and the king, who orders him absolute scum as he seethes. "Insolent woman!" The inspector grabs her by the hair, yanking her head back with a sharp crack. He slams her face to the ground, accusing her of planning rebellion and showing disrespect. Standing over her, he declares the village's destruction justified and orders Leon to execute the villagers and Cecilia immediately. Pinned to the dirt, Cecilia desperately calls out to Lord Leon, her last hope fading. The inspector grows impatient, shouting at the silent Leon, demanding to know if he's even listening. Cecilia looks up from the ground, her eyes wide with shock and fear. With a calm expression, Leon remarks that he expected a pathetic excuse, but she managed to entertain him instead. As the inspector orders her immediate death, Leon's men suddenly get his attention. In a shocking turn, Leon's subordinate sees the inspector, who screams in disbelief about this betrayal and vows to report Leon to the king. Leon coolly challenges him to try, as his men hold the struggling inspector fast. The inspector's face drains of color as he realizes the horrifying truth. Leon was planning this betrayal all along. Leon glares down at him, asking if he really thought he could get away with threatening him and ordering a massacre for sport. The inspector's bravado shatters, and he breaks down, screaming and pathetically begging for his life. With the situation under control, Leon commands his men to free the villagers and tend to the wounded. One of Leon's men approaches Cecilia to untie her ropes. Stunned but relieved, Cecilia looks up from the ground, wondering if the nightmare is finally over and she's safe. Leon stands before her against the smoldering village and asks for her name. He turns and tells her to follow him, leaving Cecilia to watch him go, her mind racing. A genuine smile spreads across her face as she realizes with relief that Leon's noble heart hasn't changed. Walking through their snowy camp, she reflects that underneath his cold exterior, he's the same kind person she read about in Ames' novel. They're met by a serious-looking person with green hair, who introduces herself as Ram, stating she's been waiting for Lord Leon. Leon introduces Ram as his right hand, and instructs both her and Cecilia to get into the carriage. Inside the wooden carriage, Cecilia sits opposite Leon and Ram, beginning their journey. Leon commends Cecilia for protecting the children, acknowledging that her actions prevented further casualties. But he challenges her, asking what a mere village girl can offer, and demanding she prove her worth if she wishes to join him. Leaning closer, he reveals his true intentions. He's staging a rebellion against the current kingdom. He outlines his plan to rally nobles and attack the capital, warning her that there will be sacrifices. Leon refuses to send an untrained person like her to the battlefield, stating he won't create unnecessary casualties. Cecilia recalls the original story, where her magic mark was the key to starting the revolution with Charles, but now her goal is different. She vows not to ruin the novel Ame wrote, even though the plot has already gone completely off script. Knowing the mark on her hand isn't enough, she racks her brain for another way to negotiate with him. Suddenly, an idea strikes her, and her expression shifts from worried to determined. Leon and Ram watch her, with Ram's hand resting cautiously on the hilt of his sword. Cecilia reveals her secret knowledge, stating that Lord Ryal, the former king's brother, taught him swordsmanship, and that his first duel was at age 8, leaving Leon stunned. She presses on, naming his first opponent as his classmate, Hans, her confidence growing. Leon is completely floored, unable to hide his shock at how much she knows about his past. With the mark on her hand glowing, she reveals her power. She can gain information about anyone just by focusing. She boldly declares that with her ability, his rebellion is now guaranteed to succeed. However, she issues a stark ultimatum. If he can't promise a rebellion with no killing, she won't lend him her power. Outraged by her audacity, Ram draws his sword, yelling at her not to get carried away. He holds the blade to her throat, angrily questioning if she thinks Leon's decision to rebel was made lightly. Ram continues his tirade, telling her she could never understand the weight of turning against the king. He dismisses her as a village girl, with no resolve, who spouts naive nonsense about not wanting to kill. Losing his patience, Ram threatens to take her head if she wastes another second of Leon's time. But in a shocking move, Cecilia grabs the blade with her bare hand, stopping it just inches from her throat as blood drips from her fingers. Ram is stunned by her action, yelling that it's a magic sword, and asking if she's trying to get herself killed. With the blade pressed against her skin, Cecilia holds her ground, her eyes blazing with unwavering resolve. Ram turns to Leon, warning his lord that he cannot assist him if this impossible condition isn't fulfilled. The teal-haired woman stands in stoic silence, a cold blade held against her throat. Her mind flashes back to a haunting image, a young schoolgirl lying lifeless on the cold ground. She remembers her past self turning a blind eye, pretending the suffering of others wasn't her problem. Now she declares this is her chance to finally atone, leaving her green-haired companion utterly confused. With tears in her eyes, she vows she doesn't want to lose anyone ever again. A man with piercing dark eyes watches her emotional declaration, his expression unreadable. Tears stream down her face as she trembles, the weight of her past and the sword at her neck becoming too much to bear. The dark-haired man scoffs, asking if she's really willing to offer her own life for the sake of others. He crosses his arms, looking completely unimpressed by her display of self-sacrifice. Pop! Suddenly, a nearby chest springs open, and a mysterious black scroll floats out. The teal-haired woman looks up, completely baffled by the magical document appearing before her. The man explains it's a scroll of oaths, a magical contract that binds its signatories by their very hearts. The green-haired companion chimes in with a chibi-faced threat, warning her they'll be the first to cut her down if she dares betray Leon. With new resolve burning in her eyes, she raises her hand, ready to accept the dangerous terms. Her hand meets his black-gloved one, sealing the magical contract. As the pact is formed, a cascade of pure white feathers gently falls around her. He watches intently as their bond is magically forged. A faint smile graces her lips as he tells her, "I'm counting on you." But a second later, the full weight of her decision hits her and she panics, realizing she just agreed to an insane contract. Her mind races. She bluffed her way into this mess and is now stuck in a revolution with no plot armor. If she fails, she dies. A voice snaps her out of her spiral, asking why she's spacing out. Her green-haired companion notices she injured herself with the sword and urges her to get treated. The dark-haired man calls her Cecilia and promises that after they deal with the next noble, he'll finally explain the kingdom's dire situation. But he has one condition first. She must show him the true extent of her power. Elsewhere, a mysterious white-haired figure outlines his three main targets: Bess, Annabelle, and Augiri. He reflects that the original story has gone off the rails, and with his ally Charles missing, he no longer knows who to trust. But his greatest fear is the wild card in all of this: the unpredictable presence of Augiri. The scene shifts to a dark mansion on a stormy night, where an unseen person seethes with rage over a certain red-haired woman. Crash. In a fit of fury, a wine glass is violently shattered. A nobleman, Murad Bess, panics, realizing that if their allies were treated so brutally, their only chance of survival is to flee the country. He calls out for Bess, only to be flustered by a woman's state of undress. She coolly dismisses it as an old habit, leaving him to sigh in resignation. As the purple-haired woman covers herself, he admits he never thought she'd actually agree to help him. She flashes a confident smile, guaranteeing his escape as he puts his faith in her, calling her the strongest sorcerer. But the so-called sorcerer is revealed to be the sinister Augiri, who smirks with terrifying power. Meanwhile, the commander Leon Morganite and his knights arrive at the gates of a grand estate. He announces himself, stating he has business with Bess. The party rides through the gates, their presence immediately commanding attention. Inside, they are met by the nervously smiling head of the house, Murad Bess. Leon returns the greeting with a cold, piercing gaze. Bess begins to sweat, nervously asking what brings the commander to his home. Leon explains they've captured a witch under royal decree and simply need a place for his men to rest. A wave of relief washes over Bess's face. Leon watches his reaction closely, his own expression remaining a careful mask. Bess eagerly offers to personally escort them to the barracks, an offer Leon calmly accepts. Later, inside a carriage, Bess looks down at their captured witch abound and gags Cecilia and sneers at how filthy she is. He glares at her with contempt, clearly enjoying her helpless position. Turning to Leon with a wicked grin, he offers to handle the witch so Leon won't have to dirty his hands. Cecilia's eyes widen in sheer terror at his vile suggestion, but Leon coolly shuts him down, stating his help won't be necessary. Bess's face twists in annoyance, clearly displeased at being denied his cruel entertainment. A nobleman with grayish-green hair and a fancy blue coat gives a firm, calculating look. His expression quickly shifts to a nervous, sweaty smile as he speaks. In a different scene, Leon confides in an elf woman with turquoise hair, admitting he doesn't think much of the king's governance. Watching from afar, Cecilia is shocked, wondering why Leon would reveal his treasonous thoughts to a potential enemy. The scene returns to Leon asking the nobleman, whom he calls Bess, for his honest opinion. Bess confesses that he initially feared Leon had come to punish him for something, but his face twists into a dark, sinister grin as he realizes with delight that Leon also opposes the king. Bess breaks into a nervous sweat, while Rom watches him silently, his hand resting on his sword. Clenching his fist, Bess declares that he's been content ruling his territory, but now realizes he can no longer be complacent. He turns to Leon and Cecilia, formally declaring that he shares their revolutionary vision. Cecilia is in total shock. This is a massive change from the novel, as Bess has now officially joined Leon's side. With a burst of manic energy, Bess throws his arms open and proclaims his desire to help create a new kingdom. His true, vile intentions are revealed as he grins wickedly, planning to impose higher taxes and live in luxury. Cecilia stares in horror, realizing the kind of monster they've just allied with. Under a lone spotlight, Bess poses dramatically, questioning why he should remain in his current limited position. Leaning in with a smug smile, he makes his demand. Once they kill the king, he expects his rank and honor to remain intact. The scene transitions, showing Bess and his entourage leaving the grand estate. Leon gently holds Cecilia's arm, apologizing for having to restrain her earlier, even though it was all part of the act. He looks at her seriously, asking if she's having second thoughts now that she's facing a real enemy. Cecilia, now unbandaged and looking serene, simply closes her eyes and says no. She's not hesitating. She's just remembering the inspector's blood-soaked face and the terror of that day. Understanding her trauma, Leon tells her to go rest in the barracks for the time being, but just as he turns to leave, he stops, adding that he has one more thing to say. He tells her to drop the formalities, declaring that since they've signed their contract, they are now equals. Cecilia's heart skips a beat as she stares at him, completely flustered by his declaration. The three of them, Leon, Cecilia, and Ram, now sit together at a table, planning their next move. Ram slams his fist on the table in frustration. He angrily shouts, questioning how someone who thrives on selfishness and causing suffering could say such things. Leon calmly tells Ram to settle down, while Cecilia, now in new clothes, watches them both. As she listens, a thought about strategy clicks into place, and she realizes something crucial is true. Leon listens intently, his expression unreadable. Cecilia confidently concludes that defeating their new, treacherous ally Bess won't be that difficult. Her knowledge from the novel reveals Bess's dark secret, an illegal system of discrimination against farmers. She knows that Bess has been hiding this corruption, and revealing the truth to the public will instantly cause his downfall. In the original story, this revelation forces Bess to flee the country, while Cecilia liberates the people. A vision of her future self appears, a heroic figure of liberation standing against injustice. Back in the present, Cecilia explains that Bess will likely head straight for the capital to save himself. Leon takes in her words, contemplating the dangerous implications. He knows that if they fail to capture Bess, the traitor will expose their entire rebellion to the king, so they must act now. Leon looks directly at Cecilia, telling her it's time to show them the true extent of her power. Ram is stunned, asking if she can actually discern Bess's secret plans. Cecilia meets their gazes with unwavering determination. As Ram questions her again, she clenches her fist, vowing to save the people just like she was meant to in the story. Standing with newfound resolve, her magic mark glowing, Cecilia boldly declares that she will be the one to capture Bess. Meanwhile, Bess enjoys a glass of wine with a mysterious man with long purple hair, calling Leon a fool for being so trusting. The man with glasses and piercing purple eyes simply smiles, remarking that this turn of events is quite sudden. But as long as the chaos is entertaining, he says with a smirk, he doesn't really care what happens. Sometime later, Ram leads a small, determined group through a sun-dappled forest. He and another soldier exchange worried glances, feeling the weight of their mission. Back at their base, Cecilia passionately explains Bess's escape route, her hands gesturing wildly as she lays out the plan. Cecilia explains that Bess is currently protected by a powerful perception-blocking spell, but she reveals his plan. Once he enters the forest, he'll drop the spell, creating the perfect opportunity for an ambush. Leon assigns the ambush to Ram, whose jaw drops in surprise at the sudden order. Leon declares that he will personally head straight for Bess to capture him before he can use his hidden escape route. At a grand estate, a servant announces to Lord Bess that Lord Leon has arrived. Bess, a man with grayish-green hair, greets Leon at the door, coolly stating he's been expecting him. He gestures grandly toward a large sofa, inviting Leon to sit down. Playing his part, Leon takes a seat and politely thanks Bess for his hospitality. With a wicked smile, Bess gets straight to the point, asking where they should begin their rebellion.
He eagerly offers to accompany Leon, clearly excited to get his hands dirty.
Bam! Suddenly, the massive double doors are thrown open with a deafening crash. Leon's soldiers storm the room, leaving Bess utterly shocked by the unexpected intrusion. Leon stands and delivers the bad news. The rebellion starts right here, with Bess's own territory. Outraged, Bess screams that he was promised wealth and fame if the rebellion succeeded. Leon coldly informs him that this revolution is for the suffering people, not his greedy ambitions. As Bess's hand trembles in fury, Leon declares that their values are fundamentally incompatible. You think you'll get away with this? Bess seethes, his hand glowing as he grips a magic teleportation device. Poof! In a flash of light, he's gone. Leon immediately orders his men to find the escaped traitor. The plan now shifts to the town, where Cecilia is escorted through the crowded square. Later, Cecilia sits down with Leon and Ram at a local eatery to go over the next phase. She lays out her strategy. She will rally the suffering townspeople to help them block Bess's escape. Leon entrusts the people to her, while Ram agrees to prepare a sword for her protection. Cecilia looks out with a determined gaze, knowing the people have been beaten down for so long they've given up on themselves. A wave of doubt washes over her as she wonders how she could possibly inspire people with no hope left. But then she remembers Leon's confident words echoing in her mind. You can do it. His faith in her reignites her own, and she stands with renewed resolve, vowing to see this through. Stepping onto a makeshift stage, Cecilia faces a crowd of weary, downtrodden villagers. She takes a deep breath, preparing to speak as the villagers watch her with suspicion. They murmur amongst themselves, wondering who this strange girl is and what she wants. Cecilia boldly announces that Leon Morganite is planning a revolution against the kingdom. She pleads for their help, explaining that if the corrupt Lord Bess escapes, the entire revolution will fail. Her plea is met with instant resistance, as the villagers' immediate thought is to not get involved. One man shouts that he has a family to think about and can't risk joining a rebellion. The crowd begins to turn away, telling her to leave them alone, they're content just to survive. But his cowardice angers another man, who whirls around and confronts him. Cecilia's heart sinks as she realizes they've given up their dreams and accepted their miserable existence as normal. She thinks of the children, innocent and full of dreams for a future their parents have given up on. She challenges the crowd, asking if making their own children abandon hope is truly protecting them. Her words hit home, and the men hang their heads in shame, feeling powerless. With her magic mark glowing brightly, she proclaims they can build a better world for their children to chase their dreams. The crowd looks up, stunned, a flicker of hope appearing in their eyes for the first time in years. Raising a sword to the sky, she makes one last passionate plea. Lend me your strength. She paints a vivid picture of a future where their children can live happily, pursue their dreams, and live with pride. The tide turns instantly as one man shouts, "Count me in!" sparking a chain reaction through the energized crowd. Now, a unified mob armed with farm tools, the villagers surge through the streets as someone shouts, "It's Bess!" Bess and his men are terrified as the angry mob chases them, demanding to know why they're being hunted. Seeing the chaos unfold, Cecilia knows Bess is panicking and that she must hurry to get to Ram. Fleeing through a dark alley, Bess plans to use his teleportation magic repeatedly to reach his secret escape route. He grumbles that if it weren't for Leon and Cecilia, he could have escaped easily without revealing his trump card. Shaking it off, he focuses on his new plan: reach the capital, align with the king, and reap all the rewards. Deep in the woods, Bess smirks, thinking his escape to the royal capital is just moments away. But from the bushes, Cecilia watches his every move, her plan in motion. Suddenly, a flash of red and Ram and his men are brutally cut down, leaving Cecilia screaming his name in horror. She rushes to Ram's side, desperately asking what just happened. A new figure emerges from the shadows, Bess, who sneers, recognizing her as the witch from before. But he's not alone. The mysterious purple-haired man coolly asks Bess what's wrong. With a chilling smile, the man, Augiri, says they've found another rat, as Cecilia wonders why he's here. Her mind races, terrified at the sight of the infamous Augiri, but her fear for herself is overshadowed by her concern for her fallen comrade. She kneels beside Ram again, calling out his name as he lies motionless on the forest floor. With his last bit of strength, Ram weakly apologizes for failing. As Cecilia looks on in despair, Augiri casually explains that her magic was just completely neutralized by him. Augiri, it's revealed, is called the Strongest because of a unique magic he developed. His spell is an absolute shutdown. Once caught, a victim can no longer use any magic. In a world dominated by magic, especially in warfare, this ability is game-breaking. His power to seal magic has earned him the title of the Strongest Magician. Cecilia realizes with dawning horror that she's run into one of the story's biggest threats way too early. Ram, barely able to stand, is helped up by Cecilia, his mind piecing things together. He looks at her in awe, realizing she must have succeeded in rallying the townspeople. With renewed fire in his eyes, he grips his sword, declaring he still has a duty to fulfill. Aogiri just laughs, mockingly impressed that Ram can still stand on willpower alone. Ram glares back, his face a mask of pure, unadulterated rage. Unfazed, Aogiri conjures a swirling orb of purple energy, stating he has a job to do and they'll have to leave. Ram's shoulders slump in defeat, and he apologizes to Lord Leon, feeling he's failed his mission. But just as he's about to give up, Cecilia steps in front of him, sword raised defiantly. Ram stares at her back, completely stunned by her sudden bravery. With tears streaming down her face, Cecilia holds her ground, ready to fight. Ram grabs her, shouting at her for being reckless and asking if she's trying to get herself killed. "I don't want to die," she screams back, her voice choked with tears and terror. Her desperation turns into resolve as she vows to survive this, no matter what. Turning to her enemies, she calmly states that this escape route was exactly where she predicted it would be. Ram, confused, can only ask what her point is. With a confident smirk, Cecilia shows him she's had a plan all along. The villains pause, Aogiri looking intrigued, while Bess seems confused. Bess glares at Cecilia, demanding to know how she knew about his secret route. His eyes narrow in suspicion, wondering if she really is some kind of witch. He points an accusing finger at her, realizing she's the one who turned the citizens against him. Aogiri places a hand on Bess's shoulder, telling him to stand down. He'll handle this woman personally. Cecilia readies her stance, her eyes locked on her opponents. Enraged, Bess ignores Aogiri and lunges at Cecilia, screaming that she dares oppose him. Bam! She parries his attack, the force of the blow sending shockwaves through the clearing. Ugh! She grunts, blood trickling down her arm as she struggles against his superior strength. With a powerful shove, he easily breaks her guard. Gah! She's thrown to the ground, the wind knocked out of her.
Before she can recover, he grabs her by the throat, yanking her to her feet.
He snarls in her face, seething that she has disrespected him for the last time. Helpless, Ram can only watch in horror and scream her name. Bess scoffs, monologuing about how foolish and pathetic commoners are. He recalls their misplaced confidence, thinking they are more capable than they truly are. In a series of bloody flashbacks, he remembers correcting them through brutal executions, believing it taught them their place. He remembers their executions with satisfaction, thinking their regretful faces were a sight to behold. Grabbing Cecilia, Bess snarls that she should be more aware of her current, helpless situation. He rages internally, thinking she should regret ever dreaming of a ridiculous revolution. Shame on you, he screams, demanding she defy him and beg for forgiveness. But her response leaves him utterly confused, as he can only stammer, "What?" Through her tears, Cecilia shouts back defiantly that she can't believe she regrets it. She remembers the villagers who overcame their fear to finally raise their voices together. "I won't forgive you!" she screams, accusing him of only ever taking from others. His eyes glowing, Bess coldly informs her he's going to kill her right now. Tisk! Cecilia glares back, refusing to show any fear. Bess plots to display her head in front of the commoners as a gruesome warning. He vows to finally crush their spirits and any hope Cecilia gave them. Raising his sword for the final blow, he declares that her foolish ideals end here. Clang! But his sword is blocked by another. Leon has arrived just in time, and Cecilia breathes his name in relief. In a blur of motion, he lands gracefully between them. "Sorry for keeping you waiting," Leon says softly, turning to a tearful Cecilia. His gaze is calm and focused as he says her name, reassuring her. Leon gently helps her up, telling her that she's endured enough. Overwhelmed with relief, Cecilia sobs his name, her ordeal finally over. As Cecilia recovers, Leon's men rush to tend to their fallen comrades. Leon turns to face his enemy, his voice low and steady as he orders her to stand back. "Late to the stage, are you?" Bess mocks, sneering at Leon for acting like some kind of savior. With his riflemen at the ready, Bess taunts the infamous black-haired Leon. Panicked, Cecilia shouts Leon's name, fearing for his safety. Bess points an accusing finger, jeering that Leon was born a complete failure, with absolutely no magic power. In this world, magic power determines hair color. The stronger the magic, the more vivid the hue. And those with no magic at all are born with common brown or black hair. "Your hair is black because you have none," Bess screams, calling it the black of failure. He flashes back to their first meeting, laughing at the nerve of a powerless man throwing his authority around. Snapping back to the present, his face twists in fury as he vows to make Leon regret this fight. "You lot," he commands his soldiers, "burn them down without leaving a trace." Leon stands his ground, unflinching as a volley of fireballs hurtles toward him. Whoosh! With a single swing of his massive sword, he deflects the entire barrage. Bess can only stare in utter disbelief at the impossible feat. He turns to the purple-haired man, Aogiri, demanding to know if he somehow undid the magic. Aogiri just smiles serenely, looking completely unbothered by the turn of events. Enraged, Bess whirls back to his men, screaming, "What are you doing, you lot?" One of his soldiers quickly reloads and takes aim, preparing to fire again. But in an instant, Leon is upon him, sword raised to strike. Eek! He effortlessly parries another shot, disarming the soldier with terrifying speed. Leon stands calmly amidst the swirling flames, completely untouched by the attack. With graceful, deadly efficiency, he cuts through Bess's remaining soldiers. "Ack, Kig, what is happening?" Bess shouts, watching in horror as his men fall. His mind races, questioning how a man supposedly unable to use magic could deflect it. It has to be the sword. The scene shifts to the past, where a young Leon and a red-haired girl receive a royal invitation Long ago, the kingdom was saved by 3 great magicians, who were granted the highest noble titles for their service. This marked the beginning of the 3 great noble families and a royal tradition of gifting each child when they turn 10. This custom has since evolved, now serving as a subtle way for the royals to hint at who will be the next family head. A young Leon reads his own summons. Since his older sister Bella just turned 10, he was invited to the castle as well. In a sunlit garden, young Leon practices with a wooden sword, while his sister Bella watches from a distance. His training is interrupted by a cheerful voice. It's his red-haired sister, who playfully asks if he's working hard. The 2 siblings sit together on the stone steps of a vast, sun-drenched garden. His sister asks what he plans to request from the king, and he asks if she's going for the symbol of the family head. Yes, she says with a confident smile, confirming that's exactly her plan. Leon looks down, his expression somber as he considers his own future. He admits that he has no idea what he should ask for. The contrast is stark. His sister glows in the light of her potential, while he remains shadowed by his limitations. He laments that, with his black hair, there's nothing he can truly do in this world. A quiet moment passes between them as his sister looks at him with concern. She gently pats his head, a comforting gesture that catches him by surprise. She acknowledges that her red hair signifies strong magic power. But you know what, she adds, telling him she's never thought of him as just someone who can't use magic. She turns back with a radiant smile, surrounded by a field of sunflowers, leaving Leon utterly speechless. She calls out his name, her voice full of warmth and conviction. She sees his true nature, telling him he's kind and has a desire to help others. She understands that he trains so hard with his sword to protect everyone in the future. His true goal, she declares with open arms, is to bring happiness to everyone. Her excitement is infectious, as she exclaims there are so many things she wants to do with him. With a dazzling smile, she tells him to stop looking so gloomy. Her unwavering belief in him leaves him wide-eyed and deeply moved. The scene transitions, a bouquet of white roses symbolizing the purity of his resolve. Back in the past, a young Leon Morganite stands before the king, who asks him to state his desire. Kneeling, Leon makes a bold request. He asks for the legendary Kyokuseki, the ethereal light stone sword. The court erupts in whispers, with one noble lady scoffing at the nerve of a magicless boy asking for such a weapon. The king himself is stunned, questioning why Leon would want the sword passed down through the royal family. It's revealed the sword is a legendary weapon. Unmatched in durability, it repels magic, and is said to be the strongest. But there's a catch. Because of its immense weight and magic resistance, no one has ever been able to wield it. Leon explains that since he has no magic, his path is different. He declares that he'll become stronger than anyone through swordsmanship alone, as his sister watches proudly from the crowd. With unwavering resolve, he vows to make that impossible sword his own. The scene shifts to the Grand Morganite estate, where his training will begin. Years pass, and a teenage Leon is seen in the garden, struggling to swing the massive blade. He grits his teeth, sweat dripping as he fights against the sword's incredible weight. He thinks in frustration that even after all this time, he still can't properly lift it. A reminder of its properties flashes through his mind. It's made of the hardest material and is impervious to magic. And as he strains, he's reminded that it's also incredibly heavy. He realizes that to master it, he simply needs to get stronger. With his sister set to become the family head in a few years, he knows his time is limited. Gripping the hilt with renewed determination, he vows that by then, he will prove he can wield it. Smash! He unleashes his power, shattering a large rock with a single earth-shaking blow. His men erupt in cheers, amazed that he actually managed to use the legendary sword. But their celebration is cut short as their expressions shift to confusion. One of them suggests that with his power, Leon doesn't even need to go to the front lines. A strange, almost pained smile crosses Leon's face as he listens to their words. Despite the odd turn, his men shout, "Yes!" in enthusiastic agreement. They gather around him, their praise feeling hollow and disconnected from his true purpose. The flashback ends, returning to the present, where Leon holds his blade to a defeated Bess's throat. His men, including a recovered ram, watch on as Bess sneers, calling Leon a, quote, commoner's hero. Leon's voice is ice as he replies, "No one calls me that anymore." Panicked and desperate, Bess accuses him of cheating, unable to accept his defeat. The commander, Leon, watches the unfolding chaos with a cold, calculating gaze. A green-haired nobleman loses his mind, screaming for Aogiri to kill them immediately. In a stark contrast, the same nobleman smirks, lounging in a field with an air of arrogant confidence. Leon and his knights stand ready in the woods, their swords drawn and expressions grim. The nobleman is now on his knees, desperately begging the purple-haired Aogiri to kill them, even offering a bigger reward. But Aogiri just smiles coyly, delivering a single, devastating word: no. Utterly betrayed, the nobleman can only stammer, "WHY?" Aogiri turns his back on him, preparing to explain his decision as the nobleman watches in disbelief. Leaning in close, Aogiri delivers the coldest burn. "It's because I'm bored of you." The nobleman sputters in rage, questioning Aogiri's loyalty to Topazolite. Aogiri casually admits that was his original plan, but things have changed. Wiping away a fake tear, he mockingly cries that being around him is just so incredibly boring. He finishes his verbal beatdown by calling him a disappointing bundle of inferiority complexes. Then, Aogiri's entire demeanor shifts as he turns with a welcoming smile, declaring, "But you're different." He's speaking to the teal-haired woman Cecilia, who looks completely taken aback by the sudden attention. Aogiri beams with a warm, genuine smile, placing a hand over his heart. Seizing the opportunity, a flustered Cecilia blurts out her desire to join them. She makes her formal plea, asking Aogiri to make her a member of the Revolutionary Army. Her green-haired companion objects, questioning how they could possibly trust the man they were just fighting. Aogiri shuts him down with a simple hush, making it clear he's only interested in Cecilia's answer. Extending a hand glowing with purple energy, he asks her one simple question: "Will you believe me?" Before she can answer, a brilliant magic circle erupts around the nobleman, who panics, realizing he's been trapped. A blinding flash of light erupts as Leon and his companions look on in shock. And just like that, the pompous nobleman is transformed into a terrified, buck-toothed rat. The green-haired knight can only stare in utter disbelief at the magical absurdity. Aogiri casually summons a magical birdcage, deciding to keep his new pet around for a while. Squeak. Trapped in the cage, the Ratman desperately begs to be let out. Turning his attention to Leon, Aogiri states that while he could fight him, he has no desire to. Instead, he offers his cooperation, seeing as they are allied with Cecilia. He follows up with a confident smirk, reminding them just how strong he is. One of Leon's knights points out that Cecilia seems to be the only one on their side who can actually use magic. Aogiri flexes his power, casually suggesting he could just teleport to the capital right now. The narrator reveals a shocking twist. In the original novel, Aogiri was never an ally. In fact, he was a major villain who was defeated by Cecilia and Charles after a fierce battle. Cecilia realizes the terrifying stakes. If she refuses his offer, he'll escape, and the revolution will fail in blood and fire. She stares ahead, the weight of the world now resting on her decision. Aogiri watches her, a sly grin on his face as he wonders what she's thinking. Trapped, Cecilia weighs her impossible choice, knowing either path could lead to ruin. Suddenly, both she and her companion gasp in surprise, calling out Leon's name. Aogiri's face lights up with a triumphant, cheerful grin. He offers his hand to Leon, who accepts the alliance but makes it crystal clear. "I'm not saying I trust you." Aogiri simply smirks, completely unfazed by Leon's cold reception. Leon turns to Cecilia, his expression serious, as he asks if she's really sure about this. His face remains a mask of cold pragmatism. Leon decides that Aogiri's strength is too valuable to ignore, and resolves to use whatever assets he can. Aogiri tries to make nice with Cecilia's companion, Rom, who angrily snaps that he hasn't accepted him yet. Leon takes command, ordering a temporary withdrawal to tend to their many injured soldiers. Aogiri cheekily offers to help the wounded Rom, who grumbles that he can walk just fine on his own. Ram informs Leon he's heading to the carriage, earning a simple nod in return. Cecilia watches the new, bizarre dynamic of their group, with a look of quiet contemplation. The green-haired man blushes, looking away as he stammers out a thank you. Cecilia gives a warm, relieved smile, happy that everything worked out. She watches as Aogiri and the other cloaked men depart, disappearing into the woods. As she and Leon walk, she glances at him with a look of surprise. Cecilia recalls the moment her hand's crest glowed, realizing it was because she's in the original Cecilia's body. The sudden realization leaves her stunned and a little flustered. In a quick flash, she remembers Leon's smug, satisfied smirk from earlier. She shakes it off, telling him she was just doing what any saint is supposed to do. With a bright smile, she vows to keep fighting to free everyone from oppression. Fired up, she tells Leon they need to hurry back to the barracks and report that they've captured Bess. But as she speaks, her cheerful expression crumbles, and her eyes fill with tears. The dam breaks, and she begins to cry uncontrollably, overwhelmed by emotion. A dark memory surfaces, a man choking her as she thinks about how scared she was of dying. The vision shifts to her own bloody corpse, revealing her true fear, losing something precious again. That fear is exactly why she fought so hard, standing with a sword to protect everyone. She looks upon the cheering crowd, relieved to know she helped protect their future. Crying tears of pure joy, she whispers how truly grateful she is. Suddenly, a pair of dark, intense eyes flashes with shocking realization. Leon watches her, his inner voice affirming, "That's right." He studies the magical mark on her hand, concluding that, while she has talent, she's got zero practical experience. He can't figure her out. Just days ago, she was a simple village girl, yet now she's driven by an incredible force. Cecilia looks up, her tear-streaked face a picture of beautiful vulnerability. Leon holds her close, deciding then and there that he needs to learn everything about this mysterious woman. His hand clenches with resolve. He gently drapes his cloak over her shoulders, telling her to take better care of herself. With a stern gaze, he warns her never to risk her life so recklessly again. Touched by his concern, she looks up, blushing as she thinks his name. He takes the lead, and she follows, placing a hand on his shoulder as they walk. Together, they head off into the light, a new bond forming between them. The scene shifts to Annabelle having tea, who asks how her guest knew her plans, and the woman replies, she has a little informant. A sinister shadow is reflected in the woman's teacup. Back in the woods, a mysterious voice calls out, referring to one of them as, "My darling servant." A close-up reveals Vivian's sly, knowing smirk. Looks like she's the informant. Annabelle, completely oblivious, asks what she's talking about. Vivian's hand reaches across the dessert-laden table, closing in on the naive girl. Annabelle smiles, completely charmed and unaware of the danger she's in. Meanwhile, life in a liberated town square has returned to normal. Narration explains the people are finally free, starting their lives anew. Cecilia waves warmly to the refugees, who are now safe and supporting one another. Leon agrees that they'll be fine for now, but Cecilia calls his name, sensing there's more to discuss. Leon turns to her, his expression serious as he prepares to tell her the truth about their country's state. They sit down in a quiet room, ready for a serious debriefing. To understand the situation, Cecilia knows she must first recall the plot of the original novel. She remembers the book's premise, a world without science where magic governs daily life. From farming to scholarship, magic is the key to a prosperous life for its people. Among them, 3 noble families hold unparalleled power and status. The first family, where the hero Charles was born, is renowned for its powerful healing magic. The second is the Morganite family, Leon and Bella's house, feared for their devastating offensive magic. And the third is the Topazolite family, master alchemists led by Diego, who secretly control the corrupt nobles. Leon confirms her thoughts, asking if their ancestors were the 3 legendary magicians who once served the king. A cute chibi version of the blue-haired girl thinks back, realizing she saw Leon's past through the gate. A narrator explains that 3 shadowy figures, a blue-haired woman with a sword, a red-haired woman, and a white-haired man, once controlled the capital until Charles and his allies tried to overthrow them. As Leon sits with his hands clasped, the narration reveals the country went through massive changes after the new king took over. The narration continues over an image of the white-haired Charles, stating he disappeared a year ago, and the Lapis Lazuli family was arrested and is now gone. Shocked, Cecilia realizes that with Charles's disappearance, the entire plot of the story has gone off the rails. Leon explains that after the Lapis Lazuli family fell, corrupt nobles joined forces with the Topazolite family. He continues, saying they've barricaded themselves in their territories, refusing entry to any other nobles. To make matters worse, despite the dangerous situation, they sent their strongest fighter, Augiri, to aid Bess. Cecilia is baffled by their actions, realizing the situation is nothing like the novel since they don't even control the capital. Suddenly, a chibi Cecilia pops up, asking Leon how he could possibly not know all this since it happened 6 months ago. With a heavy heart, Leon reveals the new ruler is none other than his own sister, Bella Morganite. Cecilia is floored, crying out, "Bella!" as a vision of a woman with long, vibrant red hair appears before her. She recalls from the novel that Bella was supposed to be a key ally who helped awaken her magic, and she wonders why on earth Bella is now the king. Leon explains that his sister seized the throne, destroyed countless villages like hers, and is now planning to wipe out the entire Topazolite family. This can't be right, Bella planning a massacre? Cecilia remembers the sweet, supportive sister from Leon's past, and wonders if she's being manipulated. With grim determination, she decides that something must have happened to Bella, and she has to find out what. She turns to Leon and asks him directly if anything significant happened in the past that could have caused such a drastic change in his sister. Even the smallest detail is fine, she presses, as Leon sits silently across from her. After a moment of thought, Leon admits that there was one very strange incident he remembers. In a flashback, a young man rushes to a uniformed Leon, telling him that Bella suddenly collapsed in her room 2 days ago. He continues, explaining that while she's regained consciousness, the doctor says she has severe memory loss, leaving Leon stunned. Leon panics and sprints down the palace hallway, desperately calling out for his sister. He finds her sitting up in bed, looking distant as she vaguely asks his name. He rushes to her side, asking if she's all right after hearing about her memory loss, but she just calmly replies, "I'm fine." Later, Leon spots a note with strange characters on her desk and asks if she's studying Eastern languages for diplomacy. Bella gives him a strange smile, brushing it off as notes for a novel's plot, leaving Leon completely bewildered. Back in the present, Leon clenches his fist as the pieces click into place, severe memory loss, and a sudden interest in Eastern characters. Cecilia has a shocking epiphany. Could someone else have possessed Bella's body, just as she possessed Cecilia's? Leon adds that Bella began her conquest of the capital without a word to him, making him believe she's shouldering a terrible burden alone. He looks at Cecilia with pleading eyes, asking her to please continue helping him. Touched and determined, Cecilia places a hand over her heart, her resolve strengthening. Leon leans in close, asking if she'll work with him to change their dire situation, catching her completely off guard. Overwhelmed, Cecilia takes a walk outside, sighing that she's lost track of her own plans for the revolution. She tries to refocus, remembering her to-do list, capture Diego, capture Annabelle, and somehow convince the new, terrifying Bella. Eek! Her thoughts are interrupted by a shirtless Augiri, who appears out of nowhere with a dazzling smile and a strategically placed piece of paper. Still flustered, Cecilia is at a loss for words, her face bright red. But then an idea strikes her. If she uses Augiri's magic, she turns to him and says she has a favor to ask. Suddenly, she feels herself being pulled by an invisible force, her eyes wide with shock. Before she can react, she collapses onto the bed with Augiri looming over her.
He smirks, his purple eyes glowing as he pins her down, asking if she truly can't use magic.
Leaning closer, he whispers menacingly, accusing her of lying about her magical abilities. He presses her again, his voice laced with suspicion, as he asks if she really is powerless. Her eyes widen in terror. He knows her secret. Sitting up, she confronts him, noting the immense magical power radiating from him, despite his claims. Panicked, she clutches the sheets and demands to know what he wants, asking if he's going to kill her. He calmly takes a lock of her hair and tells her to rest assured he has no intention of killing her. A truly twisted smile spreads across his face as he reveals his real goal, to watch her mind break completely. He confesses he's seen it countless times, watching powerful magic users get completely shattered, body and soul. With a chilling grin, he admits he finds all magic users arrogant and takes immense pleasure in breaking their pride and their precious magic. He recalls seeing others flail desperately to escape, their pathetic struggles amusing him greatly. But she, he continues, was different. Despite having immense magic, she's just an ordinary person since she can't use it. He grins, explaining that while the power gap was obvious, she didn't abandon her allies and run. In fact, watching her valiantly protect them was magnificent, leaving a confused Cecilia on the floor. His face obscured by shadow, he reveals his true twisted desire. He wants to destroy her. Surrounded by a vortex of purple energy, Augiri holds Cecilia as she stares in shock, wondering what he truly is.
A strange vision flashes before her eyes, a girl in a school uniform.
He explains his magic forces people to confess their innermost desires, causing him to appear as the person they most want to see. With a sly grin, he asks Cecilia for her true goal. Is she infiltrating the Morganites, or just out for revenge against the nobles? He leans over her, demanding she reveal her deepest desires as she lies helplessly on the bed. Tears stream down her face as she clutches a glowing emblem on her chest, vowing to protect someone. Stunned by her response, Augiri demands to know who she really is. Suddenly, a black-clad figure appears, his glowing red sword at Augiri's throat, warning him not to move. Augiri sits up calmly, completely unfazed, and remarks that it seems his fun has been discovered. Ram bursts in, furiously ordering Augiri to step away from Cecilia. Ram recalls seeing Augiri mysteriously disappear from the hallway, confirming his suspicions that the man couldn't be trusted. He urges Leon to apprehend the intruder, but Augiri scoffs, calling the idea pointless. With a disarmingly cheerful smile, Audrey invites them to try and catch him if they wish. The scene shifts, and Leon is now at Cecilia's bedside, asking if she can recognize him as a confused Ram looks on. Cecilia groggily opens her eyes and weakly whispers Leon's name. Leon gazes down at her with a cold, serious expression, his thoughts hidden. Aogiri offers a placating smile and a formal apology, admitting he underestimated Leon's capabilities. Leon's face is cast in shadow, his simmering rage barely contained. His eyes flare with red light as he snarls that he could easily cut off Aogiri's head right here and now. Aogiri finally drops the act, conceding that he's gone too far this time. As a gesture of his apology, he promises to fulfill not only Cecilia's demands, but all of Leon's as well. Ram is not having it, yelling that it's the bare minimum and questioning if he planned to do anything at all before this. Aogiri notes with a smirk that magical defense has always been a weak point for Leon's forces. He tells Leon not to worry, promising to provide items with the defensive capabilities he needs. Abs not included, probably. Leon specifies he'll need 5 enhanced items per person, reminding Aogiri of his promise with a deadly serious look. Aogiri throws a fit, whining about being given such trivial tasks, while Leon dryly calls his reaction unreasonable. Eek! A moment later, Aogiri is comically buried under a massive pile of armor, as Cecilia looks on in horror. She watches the bizarre scene unfold, a nervous sweat trickling down her face. Having survived the armor avalanche, Aogiri approaches Cecilia to offer some advice as another apology. He warns her that she'll likely face the head of the Topazolite family and must assume her every move is being watched. Utterly bewildered by the cryptic warning, Cecilia can only ask, "What?" Ram stands guard by the door while Cecilia processes the unsettling information. Alone with Ram, she lies in bed, pondering the meaning of being watched and what her next move should be. Ram calls out her name, and she looks up at him, her expression hardening with resolve. She sits up in bed and thanks him, looking a bit surprised by his concern. She reasons that Aogiri might have lied to test her and decides to refocus on her immediate goal, capturing Annabelle. Ram stands silently by her bedside, a tray in hand, as she contemplates her plan. The scene changes to a bright, picturesque town filled with charming buildings. The group looks defeated, as Cecilia realizes their target, Annabelle, is nowhere to be found. Leon confirms Annabelle isn't in the territory but is expected back today, though no one knows when. A purple-haired man with glasses jokes they should have used Cecilia's magic to scout ahead, causing her to laugh nervously. Leon notes the Onyx family's defenses are down and decides they'll head to the estate tomorrow. Strolling through the vibrant streets, Cecilia is amazed by the prosperous town, concluding it's a result of the Onyx family's focus on diplomacy. But a dark truth is revealed. The profits gained from this diplomacy are hoarded, not used for the people. All the wealth flows to the Onyx and Topazolite families, leaving the town beautiful but its people poor, strengthening Cecilia's resolve to help them. Cecilia reflects that Annabelle isn't the best, merely a pawn in a larger game. As she walks through the town, her thoughts drift to a different target. Her eyes lock onto a mysterious figure in a black hood, walking through the market. Suddenly, she stops in her tracks, a wave of confusion hitting her. The hooded figure turns slightly, and Cecilia's eyes widen as she recognizes them. It's Ram. Ram, unaware of being followed, wonders why Cecilia is in town when she was supposed to be training. Ram notes how familiar Cecilia seems with the Onyx territory, a detail that was never in the novel, raising suspicions. A shocking thought hits Cecilia. Could Ram be the traitor she's been looking for? The word traitor echoes in her mind as she stares at a grand, ornate building. She watches as Ram heads directly for the building's entrance, confirming her suspicions. Peeking inside, she's surprised to find it's just a clothing store. From the doorway, she watches Ram speaking with the shopkeeper, wondering what they're plotting. As they disappear through a back door, she panics, realizing she's lost them. Hesitantly, she decides to follow, pushing open the door and calling out a timid, "Excuse me." The room seems normal enough, but she suspects it's a front for secret deals happening in the back. Her search is interrupted by a sudden noise, and she calls out for Ram, alarmed. Pressing her ear to another door, she strains to listen, but can't make out their conversation. Determined to uncover the truth, she leans in, desperate to get closer. Suddenly, the door flies open, and she stumbles forward, caught completely off guard. Ram and a woman turn around in shock, as Cecilia tumbles into the room. To her utter disbelief, Ram is standing there in a frilly dress and hat, shouting her name in panic. Cecilia is completely baffled by the scene, her brain short-circuiting. Plot twist of the century. Ram strikes a pose, arms crossed, looking both embarrassed and defiant in their new outfit. Cecilia stares, still trying to process the absolute absurdity of the situation. Flustered, Ram accuses a stunned Cecilia of mocking them. Instead of laughing, Cecilia firmly grabs Ram's hands. With a dazzling smile, she reassures them, declaring that it's not weird at all. Ram is left utterly speechless by her unexpected and wholehearted support. A flashback begins, revealing an orphanage where only boys with soldier potential were raised. A younger Ram, abandoned by their parents, smiles softly at a flower, wanting to use it to decorate their room. 3 other boys corner Ram, mocking them for picking flowers and engaging in girly things. They taunt Ram, asking if they're secretly a girl, but Ram angrily tells them to mind their own business. The lead bully gets in Ram's face, yelling that their delicate looks are a liability for a soldier. The harsh words hit their mark, leaving Ram blushing with shame and frustration. Later that night, Ram stares out at the rain, furious at being judged solely by their appearance. Looking at their reflection, Ram vows to be both someone who loves cute things and a strong soldier. Their brooding is interrupted by the arrival of the Morganite family, who have come to recruit new soldiers. The other orphans swoon over Leon Morganite, the famous sword prodigy, dreaming of fame and glory. While the lead bully boasts he'll be chosen, Ram watches with fierce determination. As Leon orders the recruits to show their skills, the boys begin sparring with wooden swords. Ram stands ready, their expression focused and intense, prepared to prove everyone wrong. Leon's eyes land on Ram's unique green hair, and he wonders if the boy possesses magic. Seizing the opportunity, Ram steps forward and boldly requests a sparring match with Leon himself. The other boys mock the request, calling Ram a weirdo for their audacity. Leon accepts the challenge, seeing it as a perfect way for Ram to prove their ability. The two face off in the courtyard, a tense silence hanging between them as wind swirls at their feet. Their swords clash as Leon opens with a powerful strike, forcing Ram onto the defensive. From the sidelines, the bullies laugh, confident that poor Ram stands no chance against Leon. Leon unleashes a relentless barrage of strikes, his skill far surpassing Ram's. With a final, decisive blow, Leon's sword sends Ram's weapon flying from their grasp. As Ram's wooden sword lies broken on the ground, the bullies smugly think to themselves, "I knew it." The lead bully scoffs, thinking Ram was a fool for overestimating their own abilities. But to his surprise, one of Leon's men praises Ram, impressed that they lasted a full minute against the master swordsman. The bullies stare in utter disbelief, completely shocked by the unexpected compliment. Suddenly inspired, the lead bully calls out to Leon, eagerly requesting a sparring match of his own. Leon lectures the defeated Ram, explaining that warriors who rely only on magic are at a severe disadvantage in battle. He then acknowledges Ram's effort, admitting that one bout was enough to see they're different from the rest. Leon approaches, asking why, with that distinct hair color, Ram chose not to use magic. Ram explains that they've always been mocked for their appearance, with people saying a sword is inappropriate for them. But with a fierce glare, Ram declares that they take pride in their unique look. They explain that to prove their bullies wrong, they had to beat them at their own game, swordsmanship. Impressed by this resolve, Leon extends a hand and offers Ram a place in his army. Ram is floored, stammering in disbelief at the sudden invitation to join Lord Leon's ranks. Leon just smiles, telling Ram that he admires their strong character. With renewed determination, Ram accepts the offer with a resolute smile. The flashback ends, returning to the present where Ram, blushing in a frilly dress, thanks Cecilia for acknowledging them. Cecilia watches, thinking to herself that Ram's smile seems truly genuine for the first time. She apologizes for following them in secret, but Ram brushes it off, telling her not to worry. Cecilia compliments how good Ram looks, then suggests another dress for them, while secretly eyeing it for herself. The shopkeeper notices them, casually wondering if they might be tourists. Suddenly, Cecilia's eyes widen in alarm as she recognizes a new customer. A girl with long white hair and a black dress appears, framed by cherry blossoms, and offers a cheerful greeting. Cecilia realizes with a shock who she's looking at. It's their target, Annabelle Onyx. In a surprising turn of events, the three are now sitting together for tea on a sunny balcony. Annabelle thanks them for coming on such short notice, explaining she just had to invite them after seeing how well their outfits suited them. While Ram makes small talk, Cecilia thinks about how wildly unexpected it is to run into Annabelle like this. Annabelle turns to Ram, admitting she didn't expect them to be a man, and asks if they're in town for sightseeing. Blushing at the memory of the cute dress, Ram explains they just wanted to visit the famous shop at least once. Ram then questions Annabelle, asking why the money from their purchase seemed to be handed over to someone else. Annabelle casually explains that it must have simply been collection day. With a beaming smile, she reveals that all currency earned in the territory is turned over to the Onyx family. Ram listens intently, their expression growing more serious. When questioned about how merchants can sustain themselves without profits, Annabelle seems genuinely confused. Ram presses the point, asking how monetary exchanges work among the common people if the family takes everything. She happily explains that people don't need money, as the family provides all necessities, sometimes even her favorite cakes instead of bread. Her face darkens into a sinister smile as she adds that it's boring if things are always the same. The horrifying truth hits Ram. The Onyx family isn't paying its citizens, essentially treating them as slaves. Annabelle, blissfully unaware, clasps her hands together, proud of how they're always thinking of the people's happiness. Ram is utterly perplexed by her reasoning, questioning her use of the word we. Annabelle gestures kindly towards Cecilia, who sits in stoic silence, leaving Ram speechless. Later, Ram reports back to Leon, confirming that Annabelle admitted to confiscating all the people's assets. Leon realizes the situation is far more severe than he anticipated, especially after hearing they also falsify trade reports. He concludes they're hiding illegal practices and considers detaining Annabelle again to uncover the truth. Ram reflects that Annabelle seems to genuinely believe the citizens are happy under the current oppressive system. Leon agrees she has no malicious intent, but Ram finds it deeply strange that the citizens' voices aren't reaching her. Recalling her frequent use of the word we, Ram suspects there's a larger conspiracy at play. Leon officially assigns Cecilia the mission to investigate Annabelle and the inner workings of the Onyx family. The truth is revealed. Annabelle is being manipulated by her closest attendants, her steward, appraiser, maid, and secretary. They've raised her to be a perfect puppet, designed to take the fall for their illegal policies while never being allowed to think for herself. She's just an innocent girl, unknowingly championing a corrupt system she had no part in creating. The word hangs in the air, a vow of vengeance, unforgivable. Cecilia's rage boils over, fueled by a painful memory as she declares that suppressing another's will is absolutely wrong. Leon announces a change of plans. They're not just rescuing Annabelle, they're taking down her manipulative attendants. Cecilia explains the attendant scheme, revealing they use a constant rotation system to maintain control over Annabelle. Leon points out a critical flaw. If they capture the attendants one by one, the others will get suspicious and hide. The green-haired man suggests a simple solution, asking if Augiri can just throw up a magical barrier over the entire mansion. With a smug smile, Augiri shoots down that idea, declaring that it's far too difficult. Whoosh! Aogiri suddenly appears, startling the green-haired man as he explains his barrier's power consumption is tied to their strength. He reveals his magic has a limited range and requires supplemental tools for replenishment. Aogiri taunts Leon, noting he lacks the proper resources for such a large-scale spell, leaving Leon to ponder his next move. But Cecilia steps in, confidently reassuring them that it should be fine. Leon smirks, revealing he has a plan to lure all the attendants into one place at the same time. The scene shifts to Annabelle's mansion, where her attendant formally apologizes to Lord Leon for his unannounced arrival. Leon takes a seat in his formal military uniform, maintaining a cool exterior as a maid serves him tea. The lead attendant fishes for information, noting he's heard Leon brought something special, while Annabelle quietly observes. The bait is revealed, a magnificent black sword with an emerald pommel, nestled in red velvet. Leon watches silently as the attendant confirms he understands what he's looking at. The attendant explains this new sword is made from the legendary Void Glimmer stone, but with its crippling weight issue finally solved. He excitedly reports that while production is limited, it's advanced enough to be traded as a weapon. The realization hits him with this. They could create an invincible army. This isn't just a weapon, it's a history maker. His greed takes over as he imagines offering the swords to the Topazolite family, securing their power and elevating the Onyx family. The trap is set, and the attendants are completely focused on the sword, ignoring everyone else in the room. The appraiser steps forward to begin his inspection, hoping to reverse engineer the sword's unique creation technique. But as he examines the blade, his face twists in confusion. Something's not right. A brilliant blue magic circle erupts from the floor, trapping the stunned attendants who cry out in shock. Just then, the doors burst open, and the whole crew storms in, ready for a fight. The attendants panic as their magic fizzles out. "It's a trap!" one screams, pointing the finger right at Aogiri. Leon lays it all out on the table. "We know you've been controlling Annabelle and lining your own pockets." Teask! Outraged, the lead attendant furiously accuses them of being the ones using tricks. The green-haired man roars back, his face a mask of pure fury. With a twisted smile, the maid claims they were only educating the poor, lonely orphan for her own good. She insists they only stayed to help the helpless girl rule, asking how that could possibly be deception, as Cecilia listens in disgust. Aogiri gently holds Cecilia back, as she nearly explodes with righteous rage. Aogiri turns to the stunned attendants, his voice low and commanding. Be quiet for a moment. His purple eyes glow ominously as he tells them with a chilling smile, what you did to Annabelle wasn't funny at all. Leon chimes in, for once, I agree with you, presenting a terrifyingly united front. Aogiri warns that if they won't admit their crimes, they'll learn the hard way, as Leon declares, it's time for punishment. The scene pauses for a promotional image of the series. Aogiri clarifies his threat. He'll make them understand through pain. Leon agrees. Punishment time. Now kneeling in defeat, one of the attendants meekly wonders how they could possibly atone for what they've done. Leon looks down at them, stating coldly that he takes no pleasure in simple torture. He offers them a simple way out. Tell the absolute truth, and the suffering can end. One of them panics, asking the million-dollar question, what if we don't? His colleague quickly tells him not to ask stupid questions. Aogiri answers for him, his hand crackling with menacing purple energy. You'll be subjected to this. He grins, explaining that his magic is a lie detector from hell. The slightest falsehood will send excruciating pain through their nerves. The pain, he explains, is so severe that even the strongest warriors break. The attendants are paralyzed with fear. Aogiri breaks the tension by playfully putting his hands on a very unimpressed Cecilia's shoulders. She recoils in complete and utter shock, letting out a confused, huh? He strikes a triumphant, goofy pose, clearly proud of his terrifyingly effective magic. No way, Cecilia thinks, horrified by his sadistic spell, as the attendants tremble, finally realizing the fate that awaits them. With the pressure on, Leon and Ram yell at a sweating Cecilia, telling her to handle the investigation and that they're counting on her. A purple-haired magic user smirks at Cecilia, who seethes, realizing they're putting her on the spot, knowing full well she can't use magic. Realizing she has no choice, Cecilia steels her resolve, determined to use her knowledge of the novel to avoid the bad end where she's banished. Leon steps forward, his voice firm as he accuses Annabelle's attendants of embezzling the territory's funds. The four attendants, the steward, appraiser, maid, and secretary, kneel in stunned silence. Leon and the purple-haired magic user loom over the kneeling staff, a menacing purple aura crackling in the mage's hands. The steward and the maid crack under pressure, shouting that the appraiser was the one managing the money. Crying, the maid says the magic is too scary to risk, while the steward looks on in horrified disbelief. The appraiser shouts defiantly, telling them not to reveal the location for the sake of someone named Topazolite. The magic user's patience runs out as they form a ball of crackling energy, warning them that this is going to hurt. ZZZT. After a little magical persuasion, the steward screams in agony, confessing the money is hidden in his room. The magic user gives Leon a smug, satisfied smile. Now completely cooperative, the attendants reveal a hidden door in the steward's room where the money is stashed. Leon turns to Cecilia, asking for confirmation, while she nervously tries to play it cool. She confirms it's true, her mind racing as she realizes the location perfectly matches where she found the money in the novel. Leon presses his interrogation, accusing them of hiding the people suffering and falsifying reports to manipulate Annabelle. The appraiser forces a sweaty smile, insisting that the people are perfectly satisfied and that he's never heard a single complaint. He desperately argues that the fact no one has left the territory is all the proof they need of the people's happiness. Cecilia knows that's a lie, recalling from the novel that the people were furious and banished all 5 of them after a revolution. She remembers the truth. They exploited the people for money and stripped them of their freedom, all behind Annabelle's back. Cecilia erupts with righteous anger, calling them out for daring to deceive not only Annabelle, but the very people they oppressed. The magic user grins, ready to unleash another blast of truth serum. The appraiser screams as he's zapped by a powerful bolt of purple lightning. The other attendants watch in terror as their colleague falls unconscious at Annabelle's feet, who has just appeared. Annabelle stands over them, her expression unreadable as she finally witnesses their betrayal. In a flashback, a young Annabelle remembers stamping documents, believing she and her attendants were working together to make the people happy. She recalls how they vowed to bring happiness to the residents after her parents died, and how they told her they were her family. The maid's facade finally shatters, and she screams at Annabelle, revealing she never once thought of her as family. The brutal truth hits Annabelle. The cakes, the clothes, it was all just bait to keep her under control. The maid's shadow looms over her as she calls Annabelle an obedient fool who blindly followed their every command. Annabelle stares at the people she trusted, her heart breaking as she realizes her idea of family was a complete lie. She turns away, whispering in disbelief that she's been betrayed. Lost and confused, Annabelle asks what a person is supposed to do in a situation like this. The maid is taken aback by the question, unsure how to respond. Annabelle clasps her hands desperately, asking them for guidance now that her world has been turned upside down. Panic sets in as Annabelle wonders what to do, leaving the treacherous maid speechless. Cecilia steps in, condemning the attendants for exploiting a young girl and showering her with hollow, fake love. Her eyes burn with fury as she screams, demanding to know if they understand the true horror of their actions. The scene shifts to a quiet, sunlit room, a moment of calm after the storm. As Cecilia comforts the heartbroken Annabelle, she calls out her name, trying to reach her. Suddenly, a brilliant golden magic circle erupts from Annabelle, throwing her backward as Cecilia watches in shock. As Annabelle falls, she's surrounded by white roses on thorny blue stems, while the magic user holds Leon back, calling the scene amusing. A disembodied voice declares the whole affair was like a puppet show, absolutely hilarious. A stunning blonde woman in a golden dress appears from the roses, smirking and suggesting they should try theater next. Annabelle's eyes widen in terror as she recognizes the mysterious woman, crying out the name Vivian Sama. Cecilia is completely baffled, thinking to herself that she's never seen this woman before in her life. The woman, Vivian, stands before them all, laughing at the chaos she's orchestrated. She is introduced as Vivian, the head of the powerful Topazolite family. Cecilia is stunned. This changes everything. In the original novel, the head of the Topazolite family was a 50-year-old man named Diego. With a wicked smile, Vivian stares them down, leaving Cecilia to wonder who this dangerous woman truly is. The story begins with a dark-haired man in a military uniform embracing a striking teal-haired woman. A new player enters the game, a beautiful blonde woman named Vivian Topazolite, leaving everyone wondering who she is. Vivian, covering her mouth with a fan, senses familiar magic and accuses someone named Augiri of being behind it, declaring that something smells fishy here. The purple-haired magic user, Augiri, smirks at Cecilia, telling her that her actions make her a failure as a mercenary. Vivian presses Cecilia, asking if she truly doesn't care about being separated from her friends forever. With cold resolve, Cecilia states that she doesn't mind, admitting she never had high expectations for that person anyway. A dark aura surrounds Augiri as Cecilia's inner monologue reveals her shock this side of him wasn't in the novel. Vivian now turns her attention to the white-haired Annabelle, beginning a new line of questioning. She warns Annabelle that as the Minister of Foreign Trade, it would be a huge problem if she got caught. Vivian offers a helping hand, urging Annabelle to come with her to safety. But just as she reaches for her, Leon intervenes, grabbing Vivian's arm and vowing he won't let her have her way. Vivian glares back, clearly annoyed by the interruption. Leon steps in front of Annabelle protectively, pointing a glowing black and red sword at Vivian as dark magic swirls around them. Vivian turns to Cecilia, who is standing nearby, and questions her allegiance with a simple, sharp, "Cecilia?" Annabelle, seeing the standoff, gives Cecilia an out, telling her she can go with Vivian if she wants to. Leon is floored by this, turning in shock and shouting Cecilia's name. Vivian watches the drama unfold, her expression stern and unreadable. Cecilia looks at Annabelle with a gentle smile, telling her that this is a decision she must make for herself. Augiri reflects on his contract with Leon. He agreed to help as long as no one died, but he realizes Cecilia's actions are driven purely by emotion. As Cecilia cries, Leon wonders what she's thinking, suspecting her strange behavior is linked to something she once let slip. A painful flashback begins, showing a young schoolgirl being told her dreams are too expensive and won't help her future. Her parents override her wishes, forcing her to join the track team against her will as she tearfully protests.
Her father screams that it's for her own good, his anger terrifying the young girl.
Her mother's cruel words echo, calling her an ungrateful child for not wanting to be a simple housewife. The memory climaxes with a horrifying vision of her standing over her own dead body, a symbol of her crushed spirit. Celia narrates that Annabelle, who was also controlled by others, reminds her of her past self, a self who only understood the truth after losing everything. Determined to break the cycle, Cecilia tells Annabelle she is not a puppet, and that she won't let her suffer the same fate. She empowers Annabelle, urging her to decide for herself now, before it's too late. Annabelle recalls a lonely memory from a year ago, sitting alone at a lavish tea party, wondering if she even had a hobby. Suddenly, a charming blonde-haired man appears, presenting her with a bouquet of white flowers.
She remembers how all her hobbies were just lessons forced on her by her attendants to control her.
A beautiful red-haired woman joins them, telling Annabelle the one thing she wants is for her to make her own decisions. Annabelle listens, a look of quiet contemplation on her face. The red-haired woman smiles warmly, gently calling her name. For the first time, Annabelle's face lights up with genuine desire as she asks to go to the sea with both of them. She immediately gets flustered, worrying that such a selfish request is unacceptable for the head of her house. But to her surprise, they both beam and tell her it sounds like a wonderful idea. Overjoyed and blushing, Annabelle can hardly believe they're agreeing to go right now. She remembers it as a turning point, the first wish she ever made for herself, and they accepted it with open hearts. The memory of a perfect day at the beach with her two new friends brings a smile to her face. Back in the present, Cecilia finally understands her own heart's desire. She's always wanted friends. With newfound determination, Annabelle turns around, her decision made. She grabs Cecilia's arm, a magical blue crest glowing on her wrist as she declares her choice. In a shocking twist, Annabelle hugs Cecilia from behind, announcing, "I will stay with Lady Cecilia." Cecilia is completely stunned, blushing and stammering as she tries to process what just happened. Annabelle beams with pure joy, declaring she likes Cecilia more than anyone. Well, this is awkward. Cecilia realizes another one of the novel's villains has just become her biggest fan, while Vivian looks on, less than thrilled. Vivian sighs in resignation, hiding her face with her fan and muttering, "Fine, whatever." She then drops a bombshell, revealing she knows they plan to use her to negotiate with someone named Bella, who wants her dead, leaving Leon stunned. Her eyes flash with deadly intent as she makes a chilling vow. She won't let them capture her because she has to be the one to kill Bella. The teal-haired woman is horrified by Vivian's declaration, wondering what she could possibly mean by having to kill Bella. Vivian presents a way to stop the fight, her fan glowing with immense golden power. Surrounded by a brilliant magic circle and purple roses, Vivian tells him to wait for her at the Topazolite estate before vanishing. A final, determined glance from Vivian as she disappears in a blinding flash of golden light.